They went to the queen to tell her her subjects had no bread. Do you know what she said?
Let them eat cake.
Here, take the bomb.
We're getting screwed, man. Every time we turn around, we're getting screwed. Oh, the revolution's going to be through podcasting for sure. That's the only way we talk. It's the little guys that take the brunt of everything. It's got to stop. Peasants, man. We're just peasants. Every one of us. You watch those old movies, you see the peasants in the background with the kings and queens walking around. We're those people. We're those people. Good morning, peasants. Welcome to another episode of the Peasant's Perspective. We're so glad to have you this morning. All of you who are here. How many do we have going on here?
At least 0.
Woo!
1. That's probably you.
It's probably me. We're filling in. We're filling in. That's all it is.
Oh, we got one. John Attackis. Good morning.
Yeah. He's a dedicated one. He's dedicated. He's here to watch me. He's making sure everything's good.
You got a minder?
Well, if I'm ever like, hey, I'm going to a protest in Minnesota, he'll be like, no, you're not. No, you're not.
Yeah.
Just talk about it from the internet. Don't go. Don't go.
You got a safe word?
That's right. He's here to make sure I stick around.
They're filing in. Here we go. Not true. Just checking to make sure.
Oh, my goodness. I just did something horrible.
Uh-oh.
Oh, my gosh. Did I really just do that? No, I didn't. Okay. Whew. Okay, how do I bring it back now? I got the Mac with like all the hot keys or whatever you call them.
Yeah, the key to your statement there was you have the Mac.
I have a Mac. Biggest problem. I thought I just got rid of the entire, like all my show prep. I was like, no. Here to make sure Tay-Tay stays in line. Bodie boy. I'm interested in knowing what you guys who watch every day are doing while you're watching. Because I doubt you've like cast it onto your big screen TV and are watching it like your morning news program. You're probably doing peasant things, working, driving, commuting, getting ready for whatever you're doing today. If you're in East Coast, you might already be at work. If you're West Coast, you're probably getting ready for work. I'm curious. What do you guys do while you're listening? Ron, I'm getting a little bit of Oh, I know what it is. I do that. Hey, Ron, I'm getting feedback. Start checking your board. Unplug the power source to your mic. Well, yesterday there was a really big tragedy that happened.
Uh-oh.
Another one of these school shootings.
Oh, serious?
And this one was pretty bad because apparently it's a COVID relic.
Did they help motivate him and radicalize him to carry out this shooting?
When you use the word radicalize, we tend to think of terror, a more traditional terrorist, something that people came, especially in this country, to seem to be familiar with in the post 9/11 era, right? So when you talk about radicalization, you talk about writings that reference suicide, extremely violent thoughts and ideas, and those multiple videos that are posted online. What do these groups do when you say they radicalize?
So, whether it's a terrorist organization or, the variety of ideologies that different people follow, they're following them because they have susceptibility. There's various push-pull factors. Maybe it's some kind of mental break. Maybe it's their life has, gone down the toilet and they have no hope. Maybe they have bad parenting, a variety of things. The effects of COVID and the isolation and what's called the gamification influence, where young men are growing up, being raised by video games. All of those things are involved in really people mobilizing towards violence more routinely in these things. But you will also see people get radicalized solely on these video games through headsets. They may never go on the internet otherwise. So there's a variety of things that, threat professionals look at now and trends. But we're seeing this repeated.
So COVID is radicalizing people to do school shootings?
Hold on. The part that I pulled out of there was video games are doing it. And I remember talking about this in the 80s and 90s, and everybody's like, oh, that's ridiculous.
I will never forget the show A Million Ways to Die in the West.
Yeah.
When they're, it's a funny show.
I've heard of the show, but I don't think I've really seen it.
It's a funny show. Some people think it's inappropriate. Some people think it's hilarious. But anyways, there's a scene where it's, set in the Wild West, the 1800s or whatever it is. And I think it's not Seth Meyers. It's the guy who created Family Guys, whatever.
Seth
MacFarlane.
Oh,
Seth MacFarlane's one of the characters in it. I think he wrote the screenplay. Anyways, so they're walking down the street, dirt road, typical Western town. And these kids run by with the wagon wheel, the hoop, and the stick, and they're running. And he's like, wow, these crazy kids, he says, they say it's like melting their brain because they spend all that time staring at that bouncing stick, just moving too fast. It's just making them crazy, and they're like, have ADHD. And it was just so funny because it's the same argument with, oh my gosh, we can't let kids ride bikes. Oh my gosh, we can't let, it's too much for them. That's kind of with the video games. I grew up in the generation where video games was new. And so what's going to happen if you have a kid who plays video games all day?
Right.
And I can tell you now definitively, because my generation's now in their 40s, they just keep playing video games all day. It's just their hobby. Some people pick up basketball. Some people pick up sports. There's a whole generation of people that have now picked up video games, and their friend groups are all online.
And I would say it like this. Some people pick up heroin. Some people pick up World of Warcraft.
Yes. It triggers the same dopamine centers.
Right.
So Ponyboy says he's out driving headed to different locations. So I time my commute to leave to where the drive is mainly consisting of listening, not listening in installments when I'm on location. That's awesome, man. He gears his whole commute around the show. That's great. Carlitos, good morning from Texas. Welcome. Down on YouTube, Sapphire Patriot and Carlito and Tiffany, Grand Rising and good morning. Welcome. Okay, so I don't want to focus on the school shooter and who he is or whatever. Long story short, it's a man. He officially had his name changed to be a woman, and he was transitioning transgender. He's on medications, had problems. This is like the fourth transgender school shooter recently. So I don't want to focus on the shooting and all that kind of stuff because it's just why give him any credit, right? Why give him any kind of time there? And it's genuinely tragic. Where it affects us as peasants, if you're not in that school or have someone there, how it affects us is the fallout. It's the repercussions to it. It's first of all going to cover, fill the airwaves. And second of all, there could be policy that comes out of this, right? There could be decisions that are made because we've got to protect the kids. I'd echo that same sentiment. I just now want to have the conversation about what's the fallout of this going to be. That's a big thing to question. I mean, here's Trey Gowdy, who, by the way, President Trump just endorsed a book that Trey Gowdy wrote. I don't understand sometimes why give the man anything. This guy is not on your side at all. I just don't get it. But Trey Gowdy on Fox News had this to say about, we've got to do something. We've got two choices.
Our system is reactive. Something bad happens, we react to it. And what people are crying for now is how can we prevent this? How can we stop it? And the only way to stop it is to identify the shooter ahead of time or keep the weapons out of their hands. And so we're going to have a conversation of freedom versus protecting children. I mean, how many school shootings does it take before we're going to have a conversation about keeping firearms out? It's always a young white male. Almost always.
Is it?
I mean, did anyone this?
Okay, so I hate to say this, but a lot more young black men commit shootings every day, 13, 14, 15-year-olds, school shooter age, every day in America than there are white guys doing, white young men doing it. Okay, every day. The difference is the white kids attend school and the black kids don't. They're doing it on the streets. That's the only differentiation. The white kids are getting forced to go to school and they're bitter about it. The black kids are just doing their shooting on the street. I hate to be that but Trey, hello, this never was about race. If we're going to make it about race, you're going to lose that argument. You're going to lose that argument. You have lost generations of people on the inner cities. It has nothing to do with that, right? So you're going to have to either identify the shooter earlier or we're going to have to take guns away from them.
I wonder if that was a female. Did any of y'all think that? I mean, there's been one school shooting involving a female. One. Yeah, Tennessee. But other than that, it is usually young white males.
Well, if you ask the mainstream media, that wasn't a female because it was a transgender boy.
Okay.
And if we're going to do that, this was not a male. This was a transgender woman, right? I mean, if we're gonna play that game, right?
Okay.
So I don't like the fact that he suggests, hey, we're gonna have to identify them earlier. Oh, how would you do that? Would you be spying on their
Like
activities
Minority
online?
Report?
Would you maybe be, programming their TVs to listen to them for keywords? Like, how are you going to do that? Identify them earlier. You're going to make a hotline for tips and, turn-ins and stuff.
Alexa, listen in.
My wife and I were having this discussion yesterday. I said, conservatives, she goes, people don't understand the whole system's complaint driven, talking about the county. And I was like, I understand. But conservatives generally don't make complaints like that because when you're a child, you go tell mom and dad because they're the authority figure. But when you become an adult, you're now your own authority.
Well,
so you usually go confront little minor things face to face, like your civil problems. You go talk it out, work it out man to man. So conservatives aren't likely to call an authority figure. Liberals, and I'm using this as a very broad brush here, will call daddy. Right?
About everything.
They never stopped calling daddy. They're always calling daddy for about complaints. I've got one neighbor, if I start a fire department shows up. He calls and complains. He doesn't come over and tell me, hey, the smoke's getting in my house or anything. No, fire department shows up. We got a complaint, right? He does a bonfire, and does it, by the way, not even on his property, crossing the property line. Okay. and I get smoked out and I walk over and I knock on his door and I say, hey, there's too much smoke. There's a total difference, right? Still got to resolve the problem, but there's a difference. So I don't like the idea that, you're going to create tip lines, because while that kind of works, it doesn't really, because if someone figures out they can weaponize that, my neighbor has called me in for various things, right? Putting a storage container on the property, clearing some space on the property. I get stop work orders. Then I got to go hire a biologist to prove that it's not wetland. And then I got to hire another person to come do something. I've spent $6,000 responding to complaints, getting studies done so the county can see that there's no impact. There's no error. There's not even an error, right? There's not even a code in violation, but it's cost me cumulatively exactly $6,000 to prove that I'm totally innocent because that dude made a phone call. That's called weaponization of the system.
Yeah.
He can just call, make a complaint, county comes out, puts a stop work, and they put the burden on me to spend the money to resolve it, even though they know dang well that there's no error. But it's a complaint. We got to do something. So it produces weaponization. How would you like it if suddenly your kid can't go to school anymore and CPS and FBI are showing up wanting to do a house investigation because somebody called?
Right.
Okay. You know what that ends up being is people start calling and they call on 90 students who have their lives turned upside down. But one of them did end up being a shooter, and they're probably going to let him go. And then he's going to go do the shooting anyways. And then we're going to be like, why was the FBI? It's like, because none of that stuff works, because you can't actually prevent crime like that. You can't go, this person has the disposition to commit crime. Not really.
Like Minority Report.
Do you realize that CEOs and murderers on death row have similar psychological profiles?
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's why they're so good.
That's why they're so good at what they do. Exactly. Like, that's one of those things where it's like, you have to see the dark side of the light chasers, right? You're going to have that. You can't go around and profile people because you might profile them the wrong direction. You don't know. Predictive anything is garbage. Okay. So here is Ilhan Omar. Now she's got a solution to this.
I mean, that is a question that we've asked ourselves when Columbine happened back when I was in high school. We've asked ourselves that question when we saw little babies being slaughtered in Sandy Hook. We continue to ask ourselves that question. What I can tell you is that we collectively have a solution. We know that when we allow as a country for guns to be accessible to people in the easy way that it is in the United States, we continue to have these kind of tragedies. When we do not collectively as a community in the United States address mental health illness, when we don't see these children and communities that are impacted and, look for signs that tell us there is something wrong. We know that the assailant in this tragedy had a YouTube page where he was posting documenting the kind of insanity that unfolded today. Somebody saw that. And what we want to change is our perspective. We want to be able to become a country that sees images like that and alerts someone. Because if that would have happened today, two beautiful angels would still be with us. A whole community would not be devastated, and these families would still have their loved ones going home to them tonight.
Yeah, you just can't even imagine what those parents are feeling tonight. And as you noted, I mean, it's every parent's worst nightmare. And when you look at this in terms of this.
So take guns away and
I guess just
monitor people?
Rip out the Second Amendment?
Rip up the Second Amendment and rip up the Fourth while we're at it? I mean.
I guess we don't need America.
There's one solution to this. There's one solution that has been proven to work. It's what every corporation uses. It's what every government building uses. It's the only thing that will work.
This shouldn't happen. We go to the airport. I can't get on a plane with a bottled water, but we leave it. Some animal could walk into a school and shoot our children. It's just not right. And we need to come together as a country and work on what's important, and that's protecting our children in the schools. That's the only thing that matters right now. Everyone has to come together and not think about different laws. We need to come together as a country, not different parties, and figure out how we protect the schools. It's simple. It's not difficult. We protect airports. We protect concerts, stadiums, embassies, the Department of Education that I walked in today that has a security guard in the elevator. How do you think that makes me feel? In the elevator, they got a security guard. I'm very angry that this happened because it keeps happening. 9/11 happened once and they fixed everything. How many schools, how many children have to get shot? It stops here with this administration and me. I'm not gonna sleep until it's fixed. And Mr. President, we're gonna fix it. Because I'm gonna fix it. I'm not gonna rest.
That's Andrew
This
Paul.
shouldn't happen.
His daughter was killed in a mass shooting in Florida. I think it was under the Obama administration. It's been a while, but he's been a huge advocate. There's only one way to actually fix this problem. You've got to harden the schools. That's it. There's nothing else to it. You know how they stopped gun violence in the inner cities inside the schools? They put metal detectors at the doors. Mm-hmm. You can see it in like TV shows where some school in Chicago and some rags to riches story, and it shows the kids and they're going in and out of metal detectors getting into their high school. You know why? Because there was a school shooting problem back before the media would pick up on every
before
story
there were
and make it a national story.
Mass shootings.
Exactly. Back before there was a lot of bloodlust to get rid of guns at all. They were like, oh, well, we know how to prevent guns from getting into this building. It's easy. Put up detectors that detect the metal. It's like, woo, duh. You know what I mean? Oh, by the way, look, we're finding knives. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's the easiest thing to do. Couple security guards and some metal detectors, and you've probably going to solve 99% of school shootings. You notice how these school shootings don't come out of inner cities, and it's because a lot of those inner city sky schools are already hardened.
They already got them.
They already got the metal detectors. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that complicated of a thing. And so in the chat, Sapphire Patriot says, oh no, it's not Sapphire Patriot. Pray the Rosary Daily says, get retired police officers and vets to guard the schools armed. Trey is such a disappointment. I'm Pro 2A, I'm assuming. Yeah, exactly. You've got lots of people that have relevant law enforcement, first responder, military experience that are qualified to sit in a guard shack with a gun and run a metal detector. Like, not that big a deal. It's the only solution. There is another thing too, though, that has to do with general mental health. And this is something that this morning, Robert Kennedy Jr. talked about on Fox and Friends.
Prevented. And we're still trying to get a lot of answers to a ton of questions. But the one thing is clear. You are dealing with a person who's trans, that was transitioning. Are you going to be examining at all some of the drugs that are used in order to make that transition happening, to see if it plays a role? Because we also know there was a trans shooter in the Tennessee situation.
Yeah, we are doing those kind of studies now at NIH. We're launching studies on the potential contribution of some of the SSRI drugs and some of the other psychiatric drugs that might be contributing to violence. You know, many of them on there had black box warnings that warn of suicidal ideation and homicidal ideation. So we can't exclude those as a culprit, and those are the kind of studies that we're doing.
So I've never seen that medicine, but you're saying that if you get it, some of the side effects could be homicide, suicide?
That's listed as one of the side effects.
There are black
but
box
don't worry, you'll be numb about it.
Some of these psychiatric drugs that warn about in their clinical trials that they saw suicidal and homicidal ideation. So, you know, we are going into that with an open mind.
Yeah, I think that when you're messing with the mind, you're messing with the mind, right? I mean, everybody knows somebody at this point that's on some type of psychiatric medication, anxiety medication, depression medication. It comes with side effects. It just does. Like, and some people know people who've had bad bouts with getting their levels right. And, you know, this medication is supposed to fix anxiety, but I'm a ball of nerves right now. You know, we've all seen it.
Yeah.
You can't, if you know people who have taken these medications, we've watched them go through figuring out the dosage. We've watched them do that.
Well, I've watched family members go through psychiatric breaks, and it's horrible.
Yeah, it's really bad.
And eventually got off those drugs and just left them in the rearview mirror. So it's been 24 hours, less than 24 hours now. And in response, we've got to do something. We're going to have a conversation with Freedom Over Security, touted by a Republican. Trump just said, go buy his book. Okay. You've got that. We've got to take away the guns. We've got to preemptively monitor people, identify them beforehand, you know, censorship, watching social media. Somebody saw that. Somebody should have turned it in, right? Tip lines.
You've got all that. And then the only logical thing, which Andrew Pollack said this before the school shooting, I believe, is you just got to harden the infrastructure. You got to harden the school. You harden the shopping mall. You know, you've hardened the airports. Like, this is not the most complicated thing. Why are we talking about taking guns away from everybody or monitoring everybody's social media when you could just hire a rent-a-cop? Like, not that complicated. And I think a lot of this just boils down to the fact that in the last 20 years, we've had 16 years of Democrat Party rule. And as Scott Miller says, the Democrat Party is a party dedicated to protecting the criminals.
Look, we discussed this last time I was on your show. The Democrat Party does not fight for, care about, or represent American citizens. It is an entity devoted exclusively to the defense of hardened criminals, gangbangers, and illegal alien killers and terrorists. The Democrat Party is not a political party. It is a domestic extremist organization. Look at Chicago. They've shut down the police department. They've handcuffed law enforcement. And as President Trump says, they have turned the streets of Chicago into a bloody killing field. Here in Washington, D.C., before President Trump launched the federal law enforcement liberation in D.C., there was a murder on the streets of this town every other day. Body after body after body after body. That was Washington, D.C. Residents were afraid to go to restaurants. They were afraid to go into entire neighborhoods. They were getting carjacked right and left, robbed and beaten. That was Washington, D.C. Now we're 2 weeks homicide free, the safest the city has ever been in its entire history. And the Democrats, instead of jumping up and down and saying, thank you, President Trump, thank you for saving our lives, thank you for saving our cities, thank you for scrubbing away all the graffiti, the trash, the homeless encampments, the druggies, instead of cleaning up the city, instead of thanking him for that, they're saying, President Trump, how dare you save our lives? How dare you save our children? How dare you save our city? The Democrat Party, Sean, that exists today, it disgusts me. I do not recognize that party, Sean.
Stephen Miller is the most feared man in the District of Columbia.
What do you really think?
Yeah. He is the most feared man in the District of Columbia. I heard someone yesterday talking about them, and they're like, Stephen Miller, since he was a teenager, has been studying government and how to dismantle it. This has been his life's work. This is like what he wrote papers about in college. This is what he's written white papers about for different foundations and think tanks. This is his entire life's purpose, to dismantle the corrupt elements of the United States government and return it to founding principles. And this man stands at Donald Trump's right hand every day. You know, if somebody comes in and they're like, hey, Trump, you should consider this, you could consider that. You know, Stephen Miller is sitting, you know, on the couch in the Oval Office. And as soon as they walk out, he's like, that man is against the Make America First agenda. That man is trying to create, you know what I mean? Like, you know, that he is like, he is holding the line. He is like, no bend, no break. But he's absolutely right. Hey, you want to fix the violence problems in schools? Harden the infrastructure. Hey, you want to stop the murder problem in DC? Harden the infrastructure. Surge the security. You don't have to deprive anybody of rights. You just have to enforce the rules rigidly. It's that simple, right? And then, look, no murders. Look, no carjackings. Why? Because we got rid of all the people who do those things.
Oh, it's not the guns, it's the people.
Turns out the criminal doesn't really care about your rules. You know, it's like not going to make a difference. In prison, one of the things I realized, and there's been moments in my life where I've gone through these processes. When I went on my mission, we had a lot of missionary rules, right? Obviously, as a missionary for a church, they don't want you to get involved in any kind of scandals. You know, they don't want any babies left behind. They don't want any, you know, marriages where you're coming in teaching and you have an affair. They don't want you doing drugs. They don't want you drinking. They don't want all these rules. And for the most part, it's all pretty basic. You know, don't go out. You leave the house at 8:30, right? You don't go out super early. You get back in the house by 9:30 p.m. You're not out there when the riffraff gets on the streets. You know, you read your scriptures every day. Like, but as you go through, and every mission's different, but you can go through the mission rules and you realize I can't follow all these rules. Right? It's not that I can't intend to follow all of them, but just some of them I had a rule in my mission. Again, this is the ridiculousness of dogmatism and Pharisee-like behavior.
I know there's going to be something crazy.
We were not, when we ate, we had to cover our mouths.
What?
This is a rule we had. I know, man. Don't ask me. Don't ask me. When we got to the training center, I mean, we had like 9 pages of rules. Okay. And it was things like, when you eat, you're supposed to cover your mouth. This is not even a Brazilian thing. It's not like we're in some nice, polite Japanese society where it's like, oh, that's so great. You know, no, none of that. Like the burping in Japan, it means, you know, the food was good, but none of that, right? This was just like some mission president's desire. And I realized I can't follow all these rules, right? But I can have the intent. So anyways,
you're going to hell, buddy.
Enforce the rules. And, if they're enforceable, you know, and when it comes to like guns and stuff, it's unenforceable.
Yeah.
You can only take guns from compliant, law-abiding citizens who you didn't need to take guns from in the first place.
Exactly.
The outlaws aren't going to do anything. They're just not going to do it. Okay. So DC Mayor Muriel Bowser, this is the first time I've ever heard her say anything that I'm like, oh, sounds like she's actually being a leader for a moment.
We greatly appreciate the surge of officers that enhance what MPD has been able to do in this city. The most significant thing that we are highlighting today is the area of crime that was most troubling for us in 2023. Now, we have driven it down over the last years, but and I'm going to get my glasses so I can make sure I can see it correctly. But for carjackings, the difference between this period, this 20-day period of this federal surge and last year represents a 87% reduction in carjackings in Washington, D.C. We know that when carjackings go down, when the use of gun goes down, when homicide or robbery go down, neighborhoods feel safer and are safer. So this surge has been important to us for that reason. We
Stunning to hear this from Muriel Bowser. Now, I got to say, being in DC, waking up every day and watching the news and watching the evening news, because that's all you do when you're in a political prison is watch the news for some modicum of hope. Okay. So every day they're talking about crime and trying to reduce crime, and maybe we can have a youth program and maybe we can do this. And I mean, this has been all she has really dealt with for the whole time she's been in. And any mayor from DC, it's crime, 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 crime. How do we limit the crime without doing anything about it? Doing anything conservative about it, right? So for her to be like, it's working. It's the whole point of her being in office, and everything she's promised her constituents was, I'm going to make it safer. I'm going to make it safer. I'm going to make it safer. But they haven't done anything to make it safer. All the things they've done to make it safer haven't done anything. We're going to make it safer by doing cashless bail. We're going to make it safer by not charging minors as adults. We're going to make it safe. No, at that point, you're just playing to the victims, which is literally what Stephen Miller was saying, where the Democrat Party is dedicated to protecting the criminals.
Yeah.
Right. And so for her to just say this actually is working, the surge worked. Yeah. And you know what? If you protect elementary schools, it'll prevent school shootings too. In every private school out there, that if you've got kids in private school, you should go ask the school, what is your security protocol? Because they control that. Anyways, I think that is really important to understand. Now, there's a story brewing that we're going to take a look at here. There's a story brewing because you've got the director of the CDC, Susan Monarez. Susan Monarez, when she went through her confirmation just 4 weeks ago, she had this to say about vaccines and the MMR platform.
In the production of the COVID-19 vaccine, had approved the mRNA vaccines as safe and had demonstrated efficacy associated with them.
So you would not be prejudiced from the get-go against such a platform, such a vaccine built upon a platform, whether it's for COVID, flu, for Lyme disease, or anything else?
That is why I have no a priori prejudice against the mRNA platform or any other approach that is being taken to develop vaccines. And that is why we have safety and efficacy standards that the FDA puts in place for any of these medical product trials to ensure that anything that is being developed, we can have the confidence that we can put it in ourselves and our children, our family members.
So then you, as the CDC director, responsible for setting the ACIP agenda, would not shrink from the recommendation of such a vaccine. Would you also recommend that the 17 members be constituted with those who actually have experience with mRNA research and could know both sides of the safety discussion?
Yeah, we absolutely need highly trained scientists and medical professionals to be able to participate in the ACIP meeting. If they don't have deep technical knowledge in mRNA, they have to be able to understand complicated scientific information, and they have to have the temerity to ask questions to make sure that they have clarity of understanding of information that is being presented to them.
Okay, so she's pro-vaccine, she's pro-mRNA tech, and wants to continue research into that.
Huh.
All of this, of course, came about after the COVID stuff, right? So she just got appointed. Tulsi Gabbard gave this interview with Miranda Devine, and this is a longer interview. We're just going to play a minute up front because I think she kind of says what we need to hear at the beginning. But they're over at the intelligence agency, the ODNI. They're looking into some of that COVID vaccine stuff.
But the thing that we are working with
buffering.
Jay Bhattacharya, the new NIH director, on with, as well as Secretary Kennedy, is looking at the gain of function research that, in the case of the Wuhan lab, as well as many others around, many of these other biolabs around the world, was actually U.S. funded and leads to this dangerous kind of research that, in many examples, has resulted in either a pandemic or some other major health crisis.
Let me ask you specifically, because we already know that EcoHealth Alliance was partnering with this Wuhan lab to do gain of function research.
That's right.
We just have never been able to have somebody say, it was that exact experiment that led to this COVID bug. But have we gotten there? What's the new thing that you're digging in on?
We are working on that with Jay Bhattacharya and look forward to being able to share that. Hopefully very soon.
Okay.
That specific
link.
Correct. Between the gain of function research and what we saw with COVID-19.
I mean, that would be extraordinary because just so the audience knows, if that's true, if it was Peter Daszak's research with the Wuhan so-called bat lady that caused this pandemic, then we did fund it. Then Anthony Fauci helped fund the pandemic.
The thing that he denied over and over and over to Senator Rand Paul's questioning.
That's right. Under oath.
Under oath, exactly. So is it any wonder that he sought a preemptive pardon for anything during a certain period of time by President Biden before he left office?
And then strong-armed and smeared people like Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, anybody who came out and said, I don't know if that's natural. This actually smacks of lab.
And the reason why this is so important is not just what happened in the past. It's because this gain of function research is happening in biolabs around the world. We have to end this gain of function research and provide the evidence that shows exactly why and how it's in our best interest, the American people's best interest, to bring about an end to it.
Hey, everybody. Okay. So this is, I guess it's a montage. So the gain of function research and the mRNA platform are a marriage made in hell. Mm-hmm. Because what happens with the mRNA platform, and we played a video about this with Brett Weidenstein, where he's like, they thought they hit a gold mine because you've got this mRNA platform that can get approved, and then you can just insert a little code to make it produce, do the little spike protein a little different. Which what happens is the platform gets approved. So now every time you have a virus that creates a threat, you can just make a quick code, do it, and the platform's approved. And basically your FDA approvals are just going to be like super rapid and fast. Yep. And you've got immediate deployment. You've basically got the platform is such that it's just waiting for you to put that last little cherry on top, and it's a ready product. Mm-hmm. So you can mass produce it. And we were going to see basically every cold, every rash, any kind of thing that they could say this could lead to an epidemic. Boom. MMR vaccines, add it to the list of stuff. Yep. Huge profit center. They can't quash that, right? We know that RFK got rid of the 22 studies for mRNA. They've now yesterday, they removed the emergency authorization for COVID vaccines. What that means, by the way, just so everybody understands this, if you got the COVID vaccine, we all knew it was experimental, but it had an emergency use authorization. Mm-hmm. That emergency use authorization has now been pulled. So it is not authorized. You took an experiment, and that's it. That's where we're at now. You took an experimental drug.
The experiment's over,
it was mandated, folks. Told it was totally safe. We knew it wasn't. We were told we weren't, but we were gaslit into believing, it's an emergency authorization approval.
Well, yeah, you get Arnold Schwarzenegger out there. Get your shot.
If your freedoms. Yeah, exactly. So Tulsi Gabbard does that interview, and a series of other statements have come out. The Wuhan, all the gain of function research and all these biolabs around the world, they were basically getting ready to create the viruses where you'd have a pre-made, ready-to-go vaccine. You look at the COVID stuff in 2020. We talked about this. While Trump was being impeached, they initiated the approvals for the MMR vaccine for COVID.
Huh.
And then we had COVID break out at the same time. And this all was happening. Boom, 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 boom. This is Earl.
Uh-oh.
I'm not taking it.
All right. Sorry, Earl.
So this was happening all simultaneously. So that's exactly what they're coming after. They see the game now. You guys were going to create viruses. You were going to Machiavelli. Mm-hmm. Problem, solution, problem, solution, problem, solution.
Well, the best part about this one was it was a solution for all kinds of problems that we can't even imagine yet. And they were going to be like, well, we got a solution for that. Oh, it's the same solution. And every time they like, well, it's the solution. Well, cha-ching, another $1 trillion.
Exactly.
Another $1 trillion.
Cha-ching. Yep. It's flu season again. Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. Exactly. And it'll be something,
No, it'll be, guess what? We just found out there's this obscure thing that we didn't even know existed, but now all of a sudden we're going to make $1 trillion.
Because we have a vaccine for it. Exactly. That is, they're closing the loop on that, right? By exposing it, by talking about it, and then by actually like canceling the contracts for mRNA platform vaccine research, by removing the emergency youth authorization for the MMR vaccines that everybody got, by saying, oh yeah, these are not for pregnant women and kids. So they've been scaling back.
They're actually not for anybody.
And now the big thing is RFK has been doing interviews, and I didn't pull any clips of this because there weren't any big revelations, but he's like, in September, which is like in 2 days, which also means we need more chatters on Rumble. Literally, I need 2 more chatters. So start new accounts, log in and chat, because we need 2 more chatters. Otherwise, we're going to get bumped out of the creator program over that. We've met all of our other goals except for the chatters. So anyways, they've been progressively removing all the COVID approvals, removing the MMR platform, and looking at autism. And what RFK said is we are going to have an answer to what causes autism in September, and we're already looking at ways to maybe go in and fix it. Imagine the liability for CDC and NIH if COVID came from a needle, or excuse me, autism came from a needle.
Yeah.
If autism came from a needle, think about how many parents out there are looking at their children who are now basically dedicated to long-term care going, the CDC did this to you?
Right.
They knew? They ignored? What? The elementary school that required you to get a vaccine so you could go to kindergarten is the reason you can't read?
And all these kids with this condition didn't have to be like this.
Didn't have to be like this. And what RFK, and we can talk about this. This is tragic. I know so many people who have kids that are on the quote spectrum, and every one of them is unique. There's no one of these kids that are alike. And it's not to say that there haven't been mental illnesses and people that are, mute and deaf, and we have all kinds of pejorative names we used to call them.
Helen Keller.
That whole story is sketchy. I'm pretty sure her translator was just grifting off of the mute deaf woman because did you read a little story about Helen Keller? Oh my gosh. So,
okay.
No, we're doing this diatribe. Little recap. The only person that could communicate with Helen Keller was her translator.
Oh.
She didn't speak conventional sign language. She had one translator. And as soon as the translator died, Helen Keller didn't say anything significant after that.
Oh, interesting.
So there's a good chance Helen Keller may not have
said anything.
It might have been the translator like, oh, yeah. Anyways, that's a funny story. People should look into it. Okay, so since this CDC director has been confirmed, there's been steady rollback by RFK and others on all this agenda stuff. And these are major directions for the CDC. I mean, they're looking at the entire vaccine schedule. And so
good.
So this came out yesterday.
Right. And Rich, some big news out of the CDC tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Health and Human Services is announcing that the director of the CDC is out. This is just a few weeks after she was confirmed. Susan Menarez is leaving. Also, this is on top of Reuters now reporting that several others at the CDC have issued their resignation letters. The reasoning is unclear, though. The New York Times is reporting it was over differences with Secretary Kennedy on vaccine policy. Federal regulators have just approved and limited COVID vaccines for Americans. That has also put them at odds with some doctors groups who have issued their own recommendation on who should get COVID shots. Brett?
Rich Edson live on the North Lawn. Rich, thanks.
Okay, so originally she's resigning. NBC ran this article yesterday. CDC Director Susan Menarez fired by Trump administration after refusing to resign. So she resigned and then she got fired because she refused to resign. And so it's like, okay, what's going on here? So then I look at ABC. ABC's got another article. They say showdown as CDC director now refuses to leave the post. So we went from she resigned and then everybody else resigned to no, she didn't resign. She was fired to I'm not leaving.
Okay.
All in the span of an hour or two. So this is chaos.
And unless you're watching this podcast, you have no idea, according to that reporter, why this is all happening.
No idea. Yeah. It's pretty obvious to me. These people are pro-vaccine and the vaccines are turning up duds. Okay. So showdown at CDC as director refuses to leave post amid pressure from Trump administration. Now, as I'm going through this, I saw something interesting. Look at the attorneys. When CDC Director Susan Monterez refused to rubber stamp unscientific, reckless directives, I love how it's unscientific, reckless directives. Have you ever considered what the CDC publishes is unscientific and reckless? I mean, haven't we seen over and over again? This is the great revelation. And I want to pause on this for just a moment.
Okay.
Nothing the government tells you has been true for decades. Nothing. No statistic, no stat, no nothing, no study, no nothing. You can't rely on economic data. You can't rely on health data. You can't rely on historical data. You can't rely on anything. This presidency has revealed that the government has, in fact, been modifying weather, has, in fact, been experimenting medically on you, has, in fact, been spying on you, has, in fact, individually directed media companies to remove individual specific accounts that are nobodies. They have, in fact, requested that social media companies be taken down. They have, in fact, sold guns to the cartels. They have, in fact, been funding two sides of wars. They have, in fact, can I keep going?
Oh, yeah. When you get done, I was just going to say, basically, there's a proven erosion of trust.
Absolutely. And things that have been long held truths, like the polio vaccine stopped polio. False.
Yeah.
By your own admission, you came late to the party. Polio came and went from humanity before you got a single dose to the market.
And then you went, oh, look how good we did.
And then we find out you were diagnosing polio because, hey, we still have patients with the same symptoms, but we've cured polio. Oh, yeah.
Well, that's because we call that something else now.
Now we call that lupus.
Yeah.
And now we call that, what was the other one? Not palsy, but, it's like, oh, so all the people that we said had polio didn't? No. That's why some people were contagious and some people weren't. Some people got better. Some people didn't.
They're still here. They're just right over there.
Yeah, they lied. They lied.
Yeah.
Right. Nothing is reliable from these people. So when they're like, when CDC Director Susan Monterez refused to rubber stamp unscientific, everything the CDC has stamped is proven to be essentially unscientific.
Yeah, trust the science.
Yeah, reckless directives. Was COVID not a little reckless? I mean, when you get the guys that are now looking at this research and they're like, the side effects of the vaccines are beyond comprehension. We can hardly grasp with what we're dealing with here. The list of side effects and the increase in myocarditis and rapid and turbo cancers and they're like, this is all linked to the needle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that if you
and
look
autism
at these
might
numbers,
be linked to the needle and
yeah, it's pretty obvious to see that the injuries outweigh the benefit that was ever even perceived.
You tell a mother, and I've talked to a mother with this specific thing, had a perfectly healthy, normal child doing excellent. Talking, words, sentences, playing with blocks, everything. Running, took a vaccine on the prescribed schedule from the pediatrician, and never spoke another word again. You tell that mother it wasn't the vaccine, because it definitely wasn't the Happy Meal they had for lunch. Right? So,
well, if it was, we got trouble in this country.
So let me finish this here, because, yeah, when CDC directors, I've read this paragraph 5 times now, rubber stamp unscientific, reckless directives and fire dedicated health experts, she chose protecting the public over serving a political agenda. For that, she has been targeted. Monterez's lawyers, Mark Zaid and Abe Lowell said in a statement.
Huh.
That name. Didn't we just talk about that name yesterday?
Huh.
Do you remember this? So
of course not.
So I wonder who else Abe Lowe is working with. Oh, I don't know. He was Hunter Biden's lawyer.
Oh.
He was Hunter Biden's lawyer who also loaned him money to get out of his problems. Oh, and he's also Letitia James's lawyer. Oh, wow. And she's also Lisa Cook's lawyer. Oh, that's interesting.
This group of people is getting smaller and smaller.
Mark Zaid and Abe Lowell are representing those people.
These guys are really tight for some reason.
Yeah, it's a little interesting, isn't it? So I am like, you're using Abe Lowell? Okay. What do you want me to say to that? The guy defended Hunter Biden.
Yeah.
The guy loaned Hunter Biden money. right? The guy took Hunter Biden, the whole book tour thing, that was all creation of Abe Lowell. You know, just admit to all your faults. Tell him that you dig around in carpet for Parmesan cheese and you were a crack addict. No, it's not. Meanwhile, he still has a crack problem. You know what I mean? They wanted, Abe Lowell viewed Hunter Biden, that when Biden returned to office, that he would be able to take Hunter and revamp that image, and maybe Hunter would have a future in politics. That was Abe Lowell.
Oof.
Okay. Dirtbag. Dirtbag. Okay. Total dirtbag. Anyways. Okay. So that's that story. So the CDC, NIH, they're in chaos. I'm resigning. I'm not resigning. So the lawsuit now is, so this lady at the CDC is like, well, I resigned, but I didn't resign. I got fired. But now she's saying, I'm not fired. I'm not leaving. And the only person that has the authority to fire me is Donald Trump, not Robert Kennedy.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I'm pretty sure Trump isn't going to be far behind. You're fired.
Yeah.
Right? So, and then Lisa Cook now, the Federal Reserve, to finish up with the story yesterday, the Federal Reserve issued a statement and basically said, well, we're not doing anything about it, and we're going to allow them to figure out if Trump even has the power to fire her. So it's probably going to go to the Supreme Court.
Oh, brother.
This is, you're telling me you have an institution that was chartered by the federal government. It actually has a act of Congress authorizing its existence. And then I hear people being like, well, it's on sovereign land and it's actually foreign owned and it's out of, and I'm like, so you're telling me the foreign company needed permission from the United States to exist, and you're telling me that they just gave them some sovereign land and now they're a completely separate entity, but we have to borrow money from them. Like, you cannot, it's against the law to transact outside of dollars, right? So we have to borrow money from them, but they're not us, and they're not, oh, but we get to appoint a chairman, but you can't fire them, because we want them to have long terms. Okay, well, that makes sense. So you put a clause in there that says you can fire for cause. Is a crime a cause? Is mortgage fraud a cause? So now I'm looking at the DOJ and I'm like, just charge the lady already. You know, you're going to sit for 2 or 3 years pre-trial waiting for discovery and arguments. So just charge her. What are you waiting for?
Yeah.
It's not like you needed a ton of evidence to get me locked down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Your plan was to find it as we went. You paused all the cases for 14 months while you went through universal discovery. You didn't even have all the discovery. Do it. Lock her down. Lock them up. Letitia James, roll her up. Adam Schiff, roll them up. What are you waiting for? You know, they're gonna appeal this and appeal that and motion this and get the party started.
Yeah.
You know why they failed at putting Donald Trump in prison? They waited a little too long. I mean, literally, if they'd have done all the stuff 1 month earlier, Trump would have been sitting in prison for the last month before he was president. Yeah. You know, he got sentenced days after he was elected president. And the judge was like, well, you're convicted, but I'm just going to waive all the penalties because you're president now. You know what I mean? Like, guys, learn from the lessons. Get the party started. Get them into that courtroom. This is stupid. Yeah. This next news piece that I want to read here is kind of off topic and completely separate from anything we've talked about.
Okay.
I just find it funny. Okay.
We could use some of that.
Okay. So this is from the New York Times, the liberal rag known as the New York Times. Donald Trump's big gay government. Okay. On the town with A-gays, they're called A-gays of Washington, who have never been happier to be out, proud, and Republican. So what this article does is it goes through and it talks about these different people that are in Donald Trump's cabinet that are gay. And it's basically saying the culture has changed completely. And, you know, like back in the Bush, there were high-level cabinet members that were gay, but they were super in the closet. It was a huge scandal. And, you know, and now it's just like, Scott Bessent's gay and Cornell's gay and that guy's gay and that guy's gay, and they're just
so working. You can hire gay people without DEI stuff in place.
Yeah. So
wow.
it says the A-gays, they're mostly out. They're proud to work for President Trump. They have big jobs inside or alongside this administration. They wield influence over the town from the Pentagon to the State Department to the White House to the Kennedy Center. We're like Visa, said Moron. We're everywhere you want to be. He sipped a dirty vodka martini and surveyed the room. 2 Republican men waved from across the club, both gay. He explained this was also true of the middle-aged Trump appointee who ambled over for a moment to catch up, but apparently not so of the young-looking White House aide who approached a few minutes later. Straight as an arrow, said Mr. Moran as the aide walked away. He laughed and added, I hang out with my straights just as easily as I hang out with my gays. So this is the guy, Chris Moran. He works at the Department of Energy, and apparently he was like the president of the Log Cabin Republicans, which is the gay Republican pack.
Oh, okay.
I was in prison with a couple log cabin Republicans.
Okay.
They were J6ers, believe it or not.
All right.
The most powerful out gay man in the Trump administration is Scott Bessent. There is a handful of others in the Treasury Department, other A-gays, including Toby Fabrizio, the president's longtime pollster, Trent Morris, Rick Grinnell, who's in charge of the Kennedy Senator, Jacob Hellberg, an undersecretary of state. These are just some. Those are a lot of the lesser-known men waking up who make up the tribe. They're overwhelmingly white and tend to have a certain kind. And this is the whole reason I read this article. When I was in prison, okay, I am just at a point in my life where being called gay or made fun of, it's like not offensive. It's like,
no, it's like the 80s.
It doesn't matter, right? And I have neighbors that are gay. I've just made peace with it. Like,
you know, when we were kids, you could say gay and it
didn't mean anything.
It didn't mean anything.
And then it became
like, that's so gay.
But now you can say it again. Now, because of the A-gays, they're re-owning it. They're like, yeah, I'm gay. What's the problem? Right? They're owning it. So,
I like the visa statement or everywhere.
Or everywhere you want to be. Yeah. So I'm saying this because when I was in prison, there's tons of rampant homophobia, and I just don't care. Like, I just don't care. Okay. And I also am like, I'm not going to participate in it because then I'm part of the problem. So I actually kind of created a little bit of an alter ego voice to make fun of the people who made fun of gay people by doing this voice. So it's kind of a Napoleon Dynamite voice. And it's like, this whole prison is just a huge sausage fest. It's so annoying. So I do this super gay voice to make fun of the gay thing, right? I didn't cut my hair while I was in prison. Okay. I let my hair grow pretty long. I've always had kind of a trim cut. I let my hair grow out. And since I've been home, I've resisted getting a real haircut at all. And here's why. Because one of my roommates would always be like suggesting I go get a haircut. I'd look at him like, why would I get a haircut? And he kept his hair high and tight and he was homophobic. Well, they're overwhelmingly white and tend to have a certain kind of look. Close cropped haircuts, window pane suits, golf shorts. They're not the type to be telling anyone their pronouns or using the word queer. They aren't the least bit offended that the leader of their party continues to stroke moral panic about transgender people. It's the haircuts. Short haircuts are gay now, guys. If you've got a trim crew cut, you might be an A-gay. That's the only reason I read this article.
Oh, no. Sorry, all you Marines and Army people.
You're gay.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I'm not, though. Seriously, long hair's in for straight guys. It'll be the differentiating factor. You can't tell apart you can't tell the A-gays apart. They're alpha. They're in charge. They run whole parts of the government. You know, they're not your traditional, hey guys, it's the haircut. Watch the haircut. Okay. I know that's really stupid, but I found it really funny.
All right.
I almost wanted to send that article to my friend from prison and be like, see, this is why I didn't want to get a haircut. I didn't want people to think I was gay. Because he was getting a haircut like every week. Okay. Another completely off topic. I mentioned this the other day with regards to that hotel that got busted for having hidden cameras and all that kind of stuff. And I said, you know, the Patels, this Indian family owns tons of hotels. Well, here's the story.
Now, motels are very labor-intensive businesses. So what they did is when a Patel took over a motel, they fired all the staff. And the family took over all the jobs, you know, the cleaning and front desk and everything else, right? And the Patels are vegetarians and they live a very simple life. So when a Patel took over a motel in an area, what they were able to do is they were able to undercut the prices of all the other motels in the area because they have no labor. They have no payroll. They have no workers' comp, none of those things. And so they were, if everyone else is charging $25 a night, they're charging, $19 a night. So the occupancy was higher than everyone else. And they saved their money. And then what they would do is buy the next motel, send the nephew to run it, and then buy the next motel. And this started happening in the early 70s. And when you fast forward to today, 80% of all the motels in the US are under Patel ownership. 80%.
That's astounding.
It's also an American success story.
Wow.
80%. All right. Time to Monopoly bust now. Good job, Patels. You did it.
What's that dude's name that has like 30,000 doors or whatever?
John Dessauer?
What did you say?
John Dessauer? He's a guy I know, but he doesn't have 30,000. I don't know.
Never mind.
Anyways, I found that stunning. 80% of motels in the United States are owned by a Patel.
That's incredible.
In a matter of 40, 50 years. I mean, that is an incredible feat. If you don't think
they
that
did
you
it by kind of racing to the bottom, which is weird.
Yeah, but now they started at the bottom, but now they're at the top. Did you see that guy's suit? Looks so good. And his perfectly done mustache. Yeah. So interesting.
Oh, is he one of the family?
I don't know.
Okay. I thought he was just a reporter.
He looks just like the family.
Okay. Well, so racist.
What are you talking about? That's not racist.
I'm just messing.
I'm just observing the uniform. Okay. That's how it was described in prison. Their skin color is just your uniform, man. Why do you make such a big deal about it or not about it? I worked with a Patel from that family. He was raised different, but wanted out of the family business. Yeah. I'm sure a business like that, you know, it's funny.
Everybody with a family business has a story like that.
You do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I was quick.
I ended up buying your family business because your family was like, screw this. I remember I think it was Paul was like, yeah, nobody wanted to stick around and run the business.
Well, I'll tell you right here, it's because they ran it like Patels. They're like, hey, nephew, come on over. We pay nothing.
I got slightly less than minimum wage. Yeah. Hey, don't worry. I'll feed you lunch.
No, that did not happen.
There wasn't even lunch involved.
No.
All right, so this is Tucker Carlson talking about January 6th and an unaired interview with the chief of police on January 6th. And again, you know, this is a human interest story when it comes to me. And he just did an interview with chief of police Sund, and they talked about this. But again, federal informants in the crowd on January 6th.
And that was a tip off to me. I mean, I had no thought in my head as I watched this happen on television and in the subsequent weeks that U.S. law enforcement or military agencies had anything to do with it. That never crossed my mind. I never thought it was a false flag or anything like that. I'm not a conspiracist by temperament. I never thought that. And then I interviewed the chief of the Capitol Police, Stephen Sund, in an interview that was never aired on Fox, by the way. I was fired before it could air. I'm going to interview him again. But Stephen Sund was the totally non-political, worked for Nancy Pelosi. I mean, this was not some right-wing activist. He was the chief of the Capitol Police on January 6th. And he said, oh, yeah. That crowd was filled with federal agents. What? Yes. Well, he would know, of course, because he was in charge of security at the site. So the more time has passed, now it's been, and that was a tip off to me. I mean, I had no thought in my head.
Okay.
So I watched this happen on television and in the subsequent week.
These guys who do the clips, they do that. They make it so it's like too easy to feed into the next sentence, little stinkers. All right. So the Capitol was filled with feds. But yeah, this is basically what you saw after January 6th. Trump mob storms Capitol, insurrection, pro-Trump mob invades Capitol, under siege, intolerable attack on democracy, U.S. incited mob storms U.S. Capitol. You see it, right?
Yep.
And again,
insurrection.
Nothing you can trust from these guys. A judge just ordered U.S. to repay $2,270 to a pardoned January 6th rioter. So this woman was convicted and she was on appeal. So she was appealing her case. And because of that, a federal judge ordered the U.S. government on Wednesday to repay more than $2,000 in fees and restitution to a woman convicted in connection with the January 6th Capitol riot, writing the law enforcement required it. The law required it because her case was still on appeal and she was pardoned by President Donald Trump. Sometimes a judge is called upon to do what the law requires, even if it may seem at odds with what justice or one's initial instincts might warrant.
What?
U.S. Judge John Bates.
What a weird statement.
This is one such occasion. So Master Bates here was the judge of what? He's master of his courtroom.
Okay.
So he was the judge for Larry Brock, who I was telling you yesterday was the A-10 pilot that I was in prison with.
Yep.
And total tyrant. This guy, Larry Brock, won his appeal saying that they couldn't put enhancements on the 1512 charge, which would have meant he was out of prison. Like, let me out now. I'm over my time. The judge wrote a letter saying, I'm not going to resentence you until you complete the sentence. And if you force me to resentence you, I will double up your misdemeanors and give you a longer sentence by stacking your misdemeanors consecutively instead of concurrently. dirt bag. So Master Bates in his courtroom is a dirt bag. So when he says this, sometimes a judge is called to do what the law requires. Oh, like maybe resentence a guy to less time since the superior court told you that you're not allowed to add enhancements on the obstruction charge.
Exactly.
Which, by the way, later got overturned by the Supreme Court entirely, leaving this gentleman as simply a misdemeanor defendant who just served almost 2 years in prison.
Yeah, so this is an activist judge, and there's no way anybody could defend it.
And he's saying, or one's initial instincts might warrant. You don't want to return to $2,000 to the woman who was pardoned. So I plan on getting my restitution back. And I know for some January 6th defendants, this is like tens of thousands of dollars. The DOJ was in the business of confiscating people's gifts and goes.
Oh.
If you had a public defender and you even mentioned the word that your gifts and go funds were for a legal defense, whoop, take all of that. I was actually protected. I was told I was protected because I didn't start a Give, Send, Go until I was in prison, and I didn't start it. My wife did it. It was all on hers. So they weren't, and it was only for family support. There was no legal defense in it. It was the only reason my Give, Send, Go probably didn't get attacked, because lots of guys had their Give, Send, Goes attacks. Who was the J6er that got the refund? I just closed the lab. It was Claire Saint, and then it was 3 letters. So she got it, and it would be anybody who paid restitution and was still in the appeals process should be eligible to get their restitution returned to them. So yeah, very interesting. Okay, last thing here before we jump over to in private. And when we go to private, listen, if you can't, this is going to be a good one. We're going total Q on this. Okay, we're going total Q. We are analyzing some deep connections. So if you want to be on the private, it's going to be fun over there. Okay? It's going to be really fun. We're going to wrap up some Q conspiracies and see how it all is turning out. But before we do that, we're going to hear from Pete Hegseth, who reveals something pretty disturbing. Again, every day we pound on this topic. We're peasants, right? But we don't. We created our government to protect us from our own vices and to provide for common defense, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But our government lies to us constantly. It does things that are not in our better interest. They are not capable, in many cases, of doing things without some good managers. So Pete Hegseth is talking about how the United States government thought it was a good idea to, outsource its whole tech infrastructure to China.
Last month, the Department of Defense was made aware of an Obama-Biden era legacy program called Digital Escorts. For nearly a decade, Microsoft,
which is already suspicious. No, these are not Tinder bot accounts.
used Chinese coders, remotely supervised by U.S. contractors, to support sensitive DoD cloud systems. The program was designed to comply with contracting rules, but it exposed the department to unacceptable risk. I mean, if you're thinking America first and common sense, this doesn't pass either of those tests. So I initiated an immediate review of this vulnerability, and I want to report our initial findings. So the use of Chinese nationals to service Department of Defense cloud environments, it's over. We've issued a formal letter of concern to Microsoft documenting this breach of trust, and we're requiring a third-party audit of Microsoft's digital escort program, including the code and the submissions by Chinese nationals. This audit will be free of charge for U.S. taxpayers. I'm also tasking the Department of Defense experts with a separate investigation of the digital escort program and the Chinese Microsoft employees that were involved in it. These investigations will help us determine the impact of this digital escort workaround. Did they put anything in the code that we didn't know about? We're going to find out. Additionally, all Department of Defense software vendors will identify and terminate any Chinese involvement in DoD systems. It blows my mind that I'm even saying these things in such common sense that we ever allowed it to happen. That's why we're attacking it so hard. We expect vendors doing business with the Department of Defense to put U.S. national security ahead of profit maximization. I'm committed, like the president is, to ensuring that our national security networks are secure. Again, it's America first, and it's common sense. This never should have happened in the first place, but once we found out about it, we've attacked it aggressively from the beginning, and we're going to follow all the way through the tape to make sure that this is addressed. So DoD is working in conjunction as well with our partners in the rest of the federal government to ensure that all U.S. networks are protected. God bless.
Mark Milley called the Chinese and said, "Don't worry, if the president gives us an order to attack, we won't. I'll give you a call."
What?
Remember that was Mark
Yeah,
Milley,
I do
right?
remember that.
Is it any surprise that we had digital escorts being run from China?
No.
Like, the whole tech infrastructure of the Pentagon. You heard that, right, in the beginning?
Yeah, I don't know why we don't just outsource defense.
Why not? I mean, the British were at that point with the Haitians, you know, I mean, the Hessians. I mean, yeah, why don't we just outsource it? I mean, you're outsourcing all the tech, you're outsourcing the materials,
so
the
dumb.
bombs. Like Japan, Russia, China, and a couple other countries got caught. And this was back in the old season 1 who talked about this. They got caught selling the United States certified steel that we were putting in our battleships and our F-35s.
Yeah.
But the F-35 program was delayed because the wings kept falling off. And then they found out the steel was not certified as appropriate, and they caught this huge international steel cartel that were conspiring to sell the United States lower grade steel so that their armor-piercing bullets could make it through the steel. Okay?
Yeah.
Sometimes we're retards. Okay. This is one of those things where Trump's like, there's 5 or 6 critical industries, you know, like aluminum and steel, like we got to control that.
I can't remember any of the details, but I do remember that there was some cheap Chinese steel that made it into America and it made it into some infrastructure like bridges and buildings. And some of those structures had to be demolished after they found out where the steel came from. And they did some testing on it and realized, oh my gosh, this is going to fall down.
Yeah, they call it sand steel.
Yeah.
And they, one of my excavator dealers, he was putting these sand buckets, Chinese sand buckets on the machines.
Yeah.
Oh man, we've blown through bushings and teeth and the buckets would bend. And it was like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
This is not what you would expect. It was the sand steel. It was cheap made steel. There's no doubt about it. So anyways, big deal. I'm glad that they're doing that. Again, it's just like thing after thing after thing. The thing we can take heart of with this administration is they are attacking those items one by one. They're kind of going through vaccines, January 6th stuff, Russiagate grand conspiracy. Okay, now we're going after, I wouldn't be surprised if they fix the school shooting problem completely by writing some bill or executive order hardening up the school infrastructure. I think Trump's brain is there. I think that's the logical solution to the problem. It's not trying to round up every gun or, monitor every teenager in the country. That's a waste of resources.
Just if you're going to retain a Department of Education, maybe this is one reason why you could retain it.
Yeah, for the security of the schools.
That's it.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting. All right, guys, that's pretty much it for the public show today. Let me just double check, make sure I don't have something I want to throw out there. Oh, yeah, no, this is going to be a good one in the private, and it might even be a little longer than usual. So we got a couple different clips I want to play, but they're all in the same vein. Deep conspiracy. I'm going to play one more video on the way out the door, a little bit of humor about Donald Trump. This is Scott Adams, who you've heard me talk about before. He was the author of the Dilbert cartoon. He does good analysis of Trump when it comes to persuasion, and he believes that Trump wins not necessarily because his ideas are better, but because he's a better persuader. So take a listen to this. He talks about Donald Trump and making fun of Gavin Newsom and how he does it so casually, but he completely has ruined Gavin Newsom.
So here's another thing that Trump did, just sort of off the top of his head, that's going to have this lasting, major impact. Well, listen to this. So y'all know how when Governor Newsom talks, he gets a lot of crap for his jazz hands, and we don't know what that's about. Like his hands are a little too active. It doesn't look like he always did that. So it's like a new thing with the jazz hands. So Trump says, he's talking about Newsom, he goes,
"You have an incompetent governor in California, Gavin. I know him very well. He's incompetent. He's a nice guy, looks good. Hi, everybody. How you doing?"
And then he says,
he's got some strange hand action going. I don't know what the hell his problem is. It's a little weird, to be honest. There's a little something shaky going on there. But, you know...
All right, here's why that's genius. It's the same thing he did with Marco Rubio when they were debating against each other for the primary, and he said that Marco sweats too much. If you tell somebody who has a sweating problem that they sweat too much, you've completely ruined their game in public, because that's all they're going to be thinking about. he is so good at trash talking, getting in people's head. Now, those of us on X have chatted and joked about Newsom having, funny jazz hands and what's up with that. But we're not the president of the United States. So when Trump says it, it's a headline, and and now there's no way that Newsom is not going to think about while he's talking what he's doing with his hands at the same time. Now, he might not change, but he's definitely going to have to think about it at the same time he's doing it. So it's just a way to throw an athlete off their best game. It's so effective and so easy. And Trump just does it like he's just shrugging. And suddenly Newsom looks like a crazy man with his hands. And that's all you'll ever see when you watch him now is his hands. I literally can't wait to see the next video of Newsom talking, because I just want to see if he does anything different with his hands. now it's a thing. Trump is so good at that.
That's what I love. Scott Adams is just kind of funny, and he's like, Trump is a magician, and he just...
He really is a magician, because you know what's so funny about that is that Trump does it too.
I know.
Trump is always doing that with his hands.
There are so many ways. I mean, obviously people make fun of Trump, and if you want to make fun of Trump, he's rife for target practice. Yeah. But Trump is also very effective at dishing it out, and he's funny about it. Yeah. And he does. Like, we've all been making the comment about the jazz hands, Oh
yeah.
All the stuff that Gavin Newsom's doing all the time. Right. So but Gavin's making a real play at Donald Trump. He's trying to run for president. And so for Trump doing, so now Gavin's I don't know what to do with my hands. You're going to get a little Talladega Nights. All right, guys, that is it for the public show today. We are jumping over to Rumble Private. So welcome to join us over there. If not, we'll talk to you guys again tomorrow. We're going full Q.